Greetings comic lovers and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, from reviews of comics new and old, to history, to anecdotes, to really wherever our whims take us. Jimmy Olsen gets haunted. We're taking a look at the Adventures of Superman, or rather Adventures of Superman, Determiner off. And we're going to be looking at some ghosts. Last time we talked about Jimmy Olsen, we talked about how this series played a huge role in catapulting the character to popularity, getting him his own comic book series. And well, I think I've developed quite a fondness for Jimmy of this era. So when I got a comment about how there had been multiple episodes where Jimmy was haunted, I thought, don't mind if I do. I had to watch them all, or at least the ones I could find, and also see if they had any comic book tie-ins or counterpoints, looking for story inspos if they existed. We're continuing to map the appeal of Jimmy. Why? Because I can, / I want to. It's a good time. We did an overview of Jimmy in this series on the last episode where we talked about Jimmy Olsen Boy Editor, so if you missed that, card and link. Before we dive into these hauntings, I'm Sasha, and if you're enjoying this content, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, join us in this comic book journey. So in my travels across the series, I was able to locate 3 episodes in particular that dealt with Jimmy and ghosts and had him in a kind of important role. There was almost a 4th that tricked me, but I stopped it. It didn't get me. I'm gonna go in chronological order so you can also see the series evolve, because it does change significantly in tone over time. The first season was actually all shot at once in a block. That's part of why Jack Larson, who played Jimmy Olsen, took the role. He needed the money and it paid out for all 20+ episodes right away. He didn't even think it would actually air, but it did. The first episode we're gonna look at is the 2nd episode ever, The Haunted Lighthouse. That's right, Jimmy Olsen in a haunted lighthouse, well, around a haunted lighthouse. Admittedly, because of the movie The Lighthouse, which I have a fondness for, I was hoping for something kind of similar with Jimmy. I mean, but 1950s style. You couldn't get away with a lot of that stuff. You'd have to sneak a lot past the censors. They could have done so much. There's an inherent creep factor present with lighthouses, the isolation of it all. Now, this episode showcases some of the growing pains in going from radio serial adaptation to television adaptation. In fact, this episode was adapted from an episode of the radio show, which had the spoilerific title of Lighthouse Point Smugglers. Listen, I mean, I know there are no ghosts, but at least give me some time to live there to suspend my disbelief that maybe, at least this new title is trying to give us some suspense. The premise of this story is that Jimmy Olsen is on vacation to visit his aunt, who lives on Moose Island, off the coast of Maine. Jimmy is super hyped to hang out in this tiny island with his aunt, her son, and the housekeeper, who happens to be mute and deaf. But then things get weird.
Jim was exploring the shore the first afternoon of his arrival when he heard the horrible sound for the first time.
This episode is also the only one in the series to be narrated by George Reeves, who plays Superman. And while I do like his soothing narration style, it does make sense that they dropped it, because it would have been confusing overall if he's Superman Clark and also narrating. It could have been a bit of a kerfuffle. Only 2 identities for Clark, just 2, not 3. You can really feel the radio serial holdover in this one as the narration goes on for about 5 minutes. And the genre isn't firmly established yet either. Clark doesn't appear for 11 minutes of roughly a 22-minute episode. This episode has a very mystery noir feel to it, and they really played up the reporter side of Jimmy alongside the hapless comedic element. The comedy element of the character is definitely pushed more and more forward to the forefront as the series goes on.
The man who drove me to the dock said this lighthouse is haunted.
Maybe it is, so what?
Jeepers, Chris, I'm a reporter. This would make a terrific story.
Jimmy's been hearing mysterious noises, someone saying that they're drowning. He's seeing people who shouldn't be there, and there are cryptic notes being passed to him that say that they're from his Aunt Louisa, but when he asks her about them, she has no idea what he's talking about. So in a panic, he calls Clark.
How are you? I was just thinking about you. Sure, I got your postcard and... Jim, what is it?
Clark has a very dad-like father figure role going on with Jimmy in lots of these episodes, or at least that seems to be the vibe they're going for. Sometimes it lands and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it feels like something else entirely. I'll have more examples of that later on. Clark comes to the island to help out and very quickly figures out what's going on, leaving poor Jimmy in the dark so he can fulfill the damsel role since Lois is not in this episode. Clark saves Jimmy, and he also kills the smuggler. No F's given. This is very appropriate for this time period of Superman. 10 out of 10 performance, and I'm not joking. George Reeves really captures the essence of the vibe that this Superman had. So what happened? Jimmy's aunt was replaced by her housekeeper, and her housekeeper's son, who took the place and pretended to be her son. Jimmy hadn't seen his aunt for years since he was a baby, so that's how they were able to do this. They were using the lighthouse as their smuggling headquarters. They would hide underneath it and sneak in when the tide went out and then come back, and because the lighthouse was abandoned, it was a whole thing. This story feels a little oil on watering. As in, there's this mystery element that feels very, very grounded. It's grim and gritty, but then they need to add Superman in this whimsical kind of tone. And he just comes in and figures everything out instantly, which kind of deflates the mystery element of it. At least we got Jimmy's Aunt Louisa.
All my life, I've been wanting to capture somebody with a pistol.
But wait, what about all those noises that Jimmy was hearing? The person saying they were drowning. Well, haha, all laugh at Jimmy. That was a parrot that was saying that. Firstly, why did they kick the parrot out? Because parrots mimic, so unless they were walking around yelling, "We're imposters, we're not his real family," there was no reason to get rid of the parrot. Secondly, nobody drowned except for in the past, so who was drowning that this parrot heard and is repeating? This is really morbid and dark, but who cares? Everybody laugh at Jimmy, the end. This episode is a glimpse into a world of a road not taken. When Whitney Ellsworth, former DC editor, took over as producer, the tone of the series changed. It came more in line with a comic book vein and direction, so these more thriller elements, many got left by the wayside or toned down. Also, the radio tone would tone down a lot, because the prior producer, Robert Maxwell, had actually been the producer on the radio serial, so that's why so much of that was carrying over. It's all coming together. Jimmy is also a lot more nuanced here, or rather treated less in a humorous fashion. It shows that Larson had range. He plays the comedic affable aw shucks element very well, but he also can do a lot of other things. He had the potential for serious work. Typecasting. Feels bad, man. Boo! On to the next one, sort of. Season 1 also had an episode called Ghost Wolf. Now, I like to go into these episodes without reviewing the old synopses a lot of the time, because some of them are written in such a way that they're this spoiler city. They assume that you've already seen it, or that the series has been out for so long that they don't need to bother, or there's just not as much care, so sometimes the episode synopsis is just the description of the entire episode. I wanted to go in unsullied, fresh for Jimmy. As a rule, I don't mind spoilers at all personally, but you do watch things differently if you know what's going to happen versus if you don't. All of that is a preamble to say that Ghost Wolf contains no ghosts. Let this actor doing a very poor impression of specifically a Quebecois accent tell you all about it.
But this is not a true wolf. This is a loup-garou, a werewolf.
Why call it Ghost Wolf then? Just call it Werewolf or Timberwolf or something. There's not really a werewolf either. The hits just keep on coming. Our next actual plot revolving around a ghost comes from season 2, episode 8, A Ghost for Scotland Yard. That's right, Clark and Jimmy are going to England. Get ready for all of the Mockney accents. Hello then, governor. From what I could tell, this one wasn't based on anything specific, but if you're aware of an influence, please let me know. I want to know. This episode has an opening that was initially cut, but it's Jimmy having to get Clark a magazine. They're doing this tongue-in-cheek thing that the show used to do, which was that Clark was playing really fast and loose with hiding his Superman identity.
Hey, our traveler's checks, the ones we left behind in Sweden. How did they get here?
I arranged to have them flown in.
Flown?
Yes, you know, like in an airplane.
Like in Superman, for example?
Jimmy.
See what I mean though? Like there's accidentally flirty vibes sometimes. Jimmy goes to get this magazine because Clark is too lazy to get it himself, and he gets into a convo with the stereotypical newspaper man about the contents. Newsstand man. So Clark is interested in this magician named Brockhurst who died 5 years ago. He's supposed to be the most amazing magician in all the world. So good that he's claiming he can do necromancy because he said that he would revive himself 5 years after his death as a ghost. And that time has come. Spooky. Jimmy says that he doesn't believe in no ghosts, which means he's doomed himself to be trapped in this plot. I love how annoyed Clark is that they end up having to stay in England. This because Perry ends up being friends with an Arthur Macready, a Sir Arthur Macready, who was the manager, or at least he ran the theater where Brockhurst did his shows. But now Macready is terrified that Brockhurst is going to come back. Annoyed Clark is the best Clark.
Think how Jimmy would enjoy staying over.
Of course, and so would I. But not to do a feature on anything that probably won't happen anyway.
When they get to the house, Macready's family is distraught because he claims he got a call from a ghost and left to go meet him. This looks like a job for overseas Superman. There's a scene here where Jimmy is left behind and he has to comfort Macready's sister, and it's just very well done. I genuinely believe that Jimmy is a man confronted with a woman crying and having no idea what to do about it.
Willie, don't cry.
Macready is talking to Brockhurst's disembodied voice and sees his face in the clouds and passes out at the wheel of his car. He's saved by Superman. When they get back, the inspector is there.
It's just that all this talk about ghosts makes you...
Oh, I know. Nervous chatter from the women, eh? Well, Scotland Yard's here now, laddie. You and I grown men. No such thing as ghosts.
Oi, governor. That sexism aside, Jimmy is a boy because of Boys Day. Jimmy Olsen, boy editor. Keep up with the canon from last episode. This inspector also gets a call from Brockhurst, alleging to know things that only he could know. But when an annoyed Clark reaffirms he's not here for any of this, he tries to reverse the call by calling the operator. But he is told there was no call. Dun dun dun. Alright, say it with me. The call is coming from inside the house. 1950s style. Clark leaves to investigate / find proof of what most of us have already gleaned. Brockhurst isn't dead. He's not dead at all. The claim is that he was run over by a lorry or a truck. Clark barely makes it out of the house before stripping. He's so done.
What do you think's going to happen here, Jimmy?
Now Jimmy gets an inkling that the call must have come from somewhere close. Inside the house, or at least on a line that's attached to the house. And so he asks the maid and learns that there's a carriage house and there might be an old phone out there. So he goes to investigate because he's intrepid Jimmy Olsen this episode. I just realized I forgot to mention this ominous painting hanging over the mantle at MacReady's house of Brockhurst, even though everyone there hated him and MacReady's sister said he was mad. Then why hang it there? Why do that to yourselves? Jimmy stumbles into the carriage house and there he finds Brockhurst, who was hiding. And at the same time, Superman finds proof that he's very much alive. He finds some projection and projector equipment at the scene where the car crash happened, or where the car crash almost happened, because he saved that guy. Yay. So Brockhurst faked his death. He killed this random man, ran him over with his lorry, made him look like him, and then went into hiding. This for 5 years to pull off his greatest delusion. Why? The story is very vague on this, which is its biggest downfall, especially because it had so many avenues that it could have gone down. I first thought that maybe the three had done a crime and MacReady had been in cahoots with this inspector and she had Brockhurst out of something, and maybe that's why he wanted them dead, or that they had mocked him and said he was a bad magician and he decided that haha, he would show them, he'd show them all. But no, it's just that he's mad, like MacReady's sister said. He just assumed that he was being cheated even though he wasn't, and then he came up with this really elaborate scheme, okay, but then why did he say that stuff to the inspector on the phone?
When we had that little difficulty over the Persian parrot swindle, there was no one there but you and me, as I'm sure you remember.
Now that makes no sense. Oh well, he's crazy. That makes it nice and easy. The end. Props to the commitment to going full melodrama on Brockhurst's performance though. Superman saves everybody from a bomb that Brockhurst had planted inside the carriage house, but how is he planning to get everybody out there? He's been calling people and telling them to do stuff as a ghost, and so people have been doing it because ghost phone call, but what if somebody just decided not to? What was his backup plan? What if someone just called an exorcist? I expected more from the world's greatest magician, or at least a man with that creepy of a portrait. Our next episode also features spooky paintings. Only these matter for the plot. They're not just atmospheric, also it makes sense that they're there. This is Lady in Black, the 23rd episode of the second season. This episode directly followed Jimmy Olsen Boy Editor, which we talked about last time. Lady in Black opens with Jimmy staying at a friend of his mom's because his mom left to go on a business trip and didn't want him staying in the house for reasons. Now he's at this apartment even though the friend isn't there either. He's getting creeped out, and so he calls Clark.
Daily Planet, Kent speaking.
Oh, hi, Mr. Kent. This is Jimmy. I knew you were working late this week, so I thought I'd phone and say hello.
Hello, Jimmy. What do you want? I'm awfully busy.
Jimmy really wants Clark to come over because he's freaking out. He's hearing noises. There's tapping. There's a scary painting of an eyeball on the wall. It's staring at him. Clark thinks that Jimmy's just being paranoid because he had some weird food combos. That and he's reading a mystery novel and is alone in a strange house. But he says, you know what? He'll call after work. He's gonna check up on him. The apartment continues to mess with Jimmy, and I can't judge him for the reaction he has when the painting falls off the wall. Jimmy is doing better than me. I would probably just never have come back. He sees another tenant and tries to talk to him about the noises, but he's all, what noises? And when Jimmy goes to do some exploring, he gets knocked out, but in such a way that it looks like maybe potentially he knocked himself out, but we know better. Clark does keep his word and call him, and then when he doesn't get an answer, he goes into full Lois mode because Jimmy and Lois he can't leave them to do anything, and so he goes to check it out as Superman. Right away, doesn't even go as a Clark, just whoop, straight to Superman. He gets there and sees that Jimmy's being cared for by the neighbor, who says he knocked himself out, and the noises were a cat wandering around the basement, and maybe Jimmy should get his head examined. So Superman leaves. Oh, what a silly lad that Jimmy is. But when Jimmy goes back to look in the apartment, the painting is different. It has two eyes now. We also see that there's a horrible clown painting in this place as well. I couldn't stay here. These paintings would all need to be turned around. No. The next day, Jimmy has convinced himself that it was all in his imagination. When he leaves, he is accosted by a cartoon-style gangster with a giant scar across his face.
What time is it?
It's almost 8 o'clock. But I think my coat just got tangled in your fist.
Got entangled, he says.
So he did, didn't he?
Is there a back entrance?
Yeah.
Where is it?
It's in the back.
He then has a bizarre encounter at the bus stop with a woman in black who ends up taking him back into the apartment, forcing a kiss on him, giving him a mysterious package. She's got a mysterious accent, and then she runs off and it's a package full of money. Jimmy panics and goes inside to try and call Clark.
Oh, come on, Jimmy. I don't believe it. What do you mean? Are you kidding? A lady in black with a dagger yet? Okay, we've had our laugh. Now, why aren't you here at work?
Why does he keep calling Clark, oh my god, Jimmy, I have work to do, Kent? Jimmy also thinks that he sees the corpse of the neighbor because he runs across the hall to try and get somebody to help him and sees him on the ground. But by the time Superman gets there, the neighbor is fine. It looks like everything is going wrong for Jimmy. He's losing his marbles. One too many bumps on the head. Only we know he's not. But before that, here's a clip of Superman doing a Russian accent.
Yes, the lady in black, wearing a long black veil with a strange foreign accent.
It turns out that this building is being used to switch and sell art pieces. The apartment of the woman he was staying at was being used to hang the art pieces in, and the work was being moved under her apartment, which she didn't notice because she was deaf. All of this has been happening as a scheme to discredit Jimmy, make him an unreliable witness. Where is she? Did she go on a trip with the mom? Why is Jimmy alone? Should have just left Jimmy with Clark. He calls him enough. In fact, he calls him again that night after all of these strange occurrences because he's really freaking out. He's hearing the noises again. He's panicking, and while Clark says he does need to work, he says he'll leave the line open so Jimmy can talk to him. So he puts the receiver down, then he keeps typing. But because he's Superman, he can hear the noises for himself and he's able to discern that there are people talking. So he rushes over as Superman. The sad thing though is he just leaves Jimmy on the line and doesn't say anything. My heart broke a little bit.
Mr. Kent, I know you think I'm just yelling wolf. I'm not, and never have been. Look, please, even if you have put the telephone down, would you listen just a little bit?
Superman stops the art thieves and shows Jimmy that he wasn't crazy after all. How many more nights does Jimmy have to stay in this house? I don't think I could make any more. Also, it's now a crime scene. While I did like this one, a lot of parts of it felt a little odd. It felt like Jimmy should be younger based on what was occurring. So it made a lot of sense to me when I found out that this was based on a Batman story from Batman issue 80, and a story that had Ellsworth as executive editor. This story is a Dick Grayson-centric story by Dick Sprang. It's entitled Dick Grayson's Nightmare. Get your jokes out of there about Dick Sprang right now. I can feel you, I can sense you. I know you. Side notes, shout out to the Superman homepage. They have all kinds of random Superman trivia and it goes all the way back and it's great and it's fun. If you simp for Superman like I do, it's a place to check out. Now, a lot of the events in these two stories are very similar, but the reaction by the central characters is different. In our comic story, Bruce has to attend a murder trial in Chicago and has decided that he'll get the house repainted while he's gone. So he's arranged for Dick to stay at a cottage of a mystery writer friend who is on vacation. That's already way more explanations as to the whys of what's happening. If you're wondering, where is Alfred? Alfred was different at this period. In fact, he only assumes an appearance we're more familiar with in issue 83. This was because they wanted him to look like the actor who played him at the time. So Bleed Back also gave us a more recognizable to the modern reader Alfred. The point is, he's not there. Dick has to go stay alone at this mystery cottage. It's full of memorabilia. Look, there's even a noose. The story establishes that there are no neighbors nearby, just a warehouse. Like the episode, Dick does stay up reading mysteries, but it doesn't freak him out because he's Robin. He does encounter a mysterious woman in black on the way home from school and get money foisted upon him and a knife thrown at him. All of which happens to Jimmy in the adaptation. Here's where they diverge. Dick goes to the police and they don't believe him. In fact, they make fun of him. No donation from Bruce this year after he hears about this. This really upsets Dick and he even goes and changes into Robin and comes back and tries to convince them that he should do something, but they tell him just not to go on a wild goose chase, that helping Dick Grayson would be a waste of time. That night he sees lights in the warehouse and he goes over to discover an art theft ring who had purposely been working to discredit him and make him look like a boy who cried wolf. They don't even bother trying to hurt him or anything. They just say, well, he can say what he wants, who's gonna believe him? Dick is peeved, dare I say enraged. He comes back as Robin and after escaping a D-tier death trap, he proceeds to pick them off one by one, but not before appearing before the people he intends to take out and then disappearing to make it look like they're losing their marbles. He wants the rest of the gang to think that the other person is seeing things.
Wouldn't do you any good to call out Blinky. You've cried wolf once. It's just like what you did to Dick Grayson.
Totally a no way bitter Robin, 1953.
Too bad you couldn't cry out for help. But who would have believed you?
Vicious. So Robin captures them and later Bruce makes a knowing face at him while they're talking as civilians after he returns. The end. It's fascinating because both renditions suit the character that they're meant to. It works a bit better for Robin because you have the whole I'm more than I seem and I need to prove myself, plus railing against injustices of being so aggressively gaslit, whereas with Jimmy you get a more helpless vibe, but the focus is more on the aura of mystery and what is going on than Jimmy's personal struggle in that one. Also on how much he just really relies on Clark.
Nervous Olsen, no doubt.
It's interesting seeing a Dick Grayson story tailored to Jimmy. What do you think of that? Do you think it works? Or vice versa, do you feel that would work? Which of these was your favorite Jimmy haunting? Did I miss any? Tell me things down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit bell notifications so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time your day spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye.